killer.
This was no kid that was just starting a criminal career. This is somebody who had developed a degree of criminal sophistication over the
The murderous couple. The beginning of everything was a covenant they took together, and the covenant ended at the end of their lives, or in the correct sense, was the reason for what happened to them. As this covenant wasn't taken to live for life or a covenant to live together, but the covenant was for something else, because of which the lives of 10 people ended in a heinous way. When they were tried, they didn't show any remorse despite that, but tried to deny the accusation and deny what happened. And in the end, they got a penalty for what they did, and their end was somewhat realistic. Who are they? And what did they do? And what was the court's response to what happened? This is what we will know in the channel Dark Matters. In 1985, there was a couple from Texas, specifically from the city of Wichita Falls. The husband is called Eddie Clarence at the age of 21 years, and the wife is called Michelle Clarence at the age of 17 years. And the two got married after interviews that lasted for a month and a half, and fell in love with them. Michelle offered the idea of marriage to her family. She thought they would agree easily, but the opposite happened, where the first to oppose was her stepfather, where he opposed and didn't agree, and her mother stood next to her husband. But with Michelle's insistence, the mother finally agreed, and they held a simple wedding and got married, and lived their lives like the rest of the couples, until they decided one day to enter an abandoned farm located on the road. And here was the breaking point in their lives, where this day was the break in their lives and everything came to an end. The couple decided to take a picture before entering the farm, and saw that the picture was special. Each person wore a mask in the shape of a different animal, and after they finished, they entered the farm and began to discover it, and find out what was inside, and found bones of decomposed animals and several other things that fit the abandoned farm. And after they discovered it completely, they decided to make a covenant together like normal agreements. But the difference here that distinguished the subject was that the covenant method wasn't the example of ordinary agreements at all. They began to agree and document what was happening by writing on paper. The covenant stipulated that each of them should be based on fidelity and eternal love, and they swore to this and also promised each other to protect each other in case of anything, and eliminate anyone who wants to end this love that exists between them. And to some extent, the situation seems to be they wrung their wrists and drank from each other's blood with the paper on which the agreement was written, and thus ended the stage of the covenant ceremony to begin another stage. It was the end of their lives. One of the conditions of the covenant was to get rid of anyone who stood in their face, or even tried to stand up. And after they finished the ceremony of the covenant, they immediately went to the first obstacle in their lives, and he was Michelle's stepfather, George Naylor, where they killed him using a fork. The big fork used to collect hay, and Naylor died after 47 stab wounds. And yet they weren't satisfied with that, and saw that he died easily, but they accepted it in the end. The couple not only bought 2 Naylor rifles and waited for the mother to return with Michelle's sisters, and got rid of the mother as well as from Michelle's 3 younger sisters by bullets. And they also executed the rest of the family that was present at the time, and also a neighbor died from random shooting when he went to check on the matter because they ran out into the street. And the situation started to get crazy when they started shooting indiscriminately in the state of Oklahoma. And other people were injured as a result of that shooting, and the police caught them with difficulty. As the situation ended with Eddie and Michelle being surrounded by the police and turning themselves in calmly and not trying to escape from them or shoot them. They even put the weapon on the ground and went with the police to start investigations with them. Eddie was taken to a mental hospital after he made an attempt to riot inside the court. And one of the criminals tried to kill a member of the court. After the verdict was pronounced and dissatisfied with it, and another hearing was supposed to happen after the criminals were taken to the hospital. But nothing happened because Eddie Berkeley died at the hands of another psychiatric patient at the Red River Mental Hospital in the year 1989, and the wife ended up locked up. As for Michelle, she was transferred to the Oklahoma Psychiatric Institute and was the opposite of Eddie. She didn't show any shred of remorse, and she began repeating incomprehensible words for the doctors who were studying the case. But there was some words that were understandable and very clear from the rest of her words. Is that she is hopelessly in love with Eddie, and she remains so incomprehensible, and she is imprisoned. And 4 years after her transfer, she was found murdered, and not does anyone to this day know how she was killed or what happened to her. Next video. He was accused of a crime that had no solution and was about to take the death penalty, as California law is fairly strict and there is nothing to save him from the crime. But the lawyer's diligence in the case wasn't in vain, and he was able to get him out with the help of a famous series. Who is he, and what happened to him, and how did he get out of the case?